A dozen countries, 30,000 people that you've talked to. The mission behind this is what?
A lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. But now we're stopping the development of children with a chemical castration drug designed for prostate cancer, endometriosis, uterine fibroids. Same drug is given to pedophiles to chemically castrate them.
You called the police.
Yes.
Because you were getting harassed and they arrested you and Lois.
Yes, they did. We're gonna tell this beautiful girl that she was born in the wrong body because she likes boy toys and boy sports. Now, I know what some people at home are thinking. They're not saying that, Chris. Yes, they are. Boston Children's Hospital released a series of videos a few years ago.
Let's watch it. He's been beaten up, strip searched, and arrested for simply wearing signs on his body, defending the dignity of children. His goal is to create dialogue about the realities of gender-affirming care and the permanent damage it can cause to defenseless kids. Welcome back to the Lila Rose Show. I believe that Chris Elston, also known as Billboard Chris, is a hero for doing the simple act of using his voice to speak the truth in peaceful public dialogue. Chris exemplifies the goal of this show and the goal of our entire community over here at the Lila Rose Show, to present the truth clearly, boldly, and peacefully. If you want to continue to support this mission, please ensure that you've actually hit that subscribe button, like this video, and join us over at patreon.com/Lila Rose Show. There's behind the scenes footage there, ad-free episodes, and more. Also, we have launched our merch, which I'm so excited to share with you. You can go check that out at the link in the description. Chris Elston, aka Billboard Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am the 30,001 person now you've talked to on these topics that we're going to dive into today.
Something like that. Yeah, I estimate I've probably had about 30,000 conversations on the street and at university campuses all around the world about the subject of gender ideology, specifically what I consider to be the greatest child abuse scandal in the history of modern medicine, the practice of trying to change the sex of children with puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and surgeries.
You've been over, I think, 100 and is it 20 cities now?
Something like that.
A dozen countries, 30,000 people that you've talked to. You're getting 1 billion impressions online. And the mission behind this is what?
And the practice of child transition all across the world. That's the immediate goal.
Scott, what were you doing before you took on this mission, and how did you get onto this mission?
I used to have a normal job, Lila. I was a financial advisor. I managed money, people's retirement savings, and I did that for about 20 years.
Too boring?
Probably.
You're like, we're going to go and do street activism now.
Yeah, not purpose-driven enough. So when you're in that job and you're managing investment portfolios, you're paying attention to everything in the world. Because if something happens in Iraq, if an oil pipeline blows up, it affects the price of investments in Canada or the US. So I'm just one of those guys that's been paying attention to everything going on in the world for a long time. And I don't like what I've been seeing, as many people can probably relate to. But when you become a parent and you're working, your job is to take care of your family and you just keep going. But what happened in 2019, on Twitter, I came across this term puberty blockers for the first time. And I said to myself, what the heck are those? I have 2 daughters at that time who were 7 and 9. Years old. And so I started researching this. And for the average normal person, when you learn that they're stopping the development of children, that should cause your jaw to hit the floor. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world, but now we're stopping the development of children with a chemical castration drug designed for prostate cancer, endometriosis, uterine fibroids. Same drug is given to pedophiles to chemically castrate them because it takes their testosterone down to 0. And this drug has been used in the penal system to give to criminals where they're not allowed to get out of prison until they take it, because that's how effective it is for these sex offenders. Yet we're now giving this to kids off-label because it happens to stop their puberty. Why are we doing this? Because they have fallen for this lie, teaching them that they were born in the wrong body. Wow. That is a level of insanity too far for Chris, the financial advisor, in 2019. So I started researching this every night. I think my wife probably thought I was losing my mind because I was obsessing on this. But the more you read about this topic, truly the crazier it gets. And so what happened in July of 2020 is a woman in the UK put up a sign at the Edinburgh train station. It simply said, "I love JK Rowling. I heart JK Rowling." That sign lasted one day because some people on Twitter complained that it was hate speech. And so the government-run train authority took the sign down. So you've got me sitting at home in Vancouver, Canada. I've been learning about all this madness. We have people getting fired from their jobs for acknowledging biological reality. We have rapists going into women's prisons. I'll get into that later. There's some really gruesome stuff. I don't want to scare everyone right at the beginning of this podcast. But we can't even talk about an issue where children are being harmed, and we can't even say we love the world's greatest children's author. That's insane. So I had enough, and I put up a big billboard on the side of the street. That's where my nickname, Billboard Chris, first came from. I didn't give it to myself. You're not supposed to give yourself a nickname. But I put up this huge billboard on the side of the street heading into Vancouver that said, "I heart JK Rowling." It also lasted one day because a Vancouver politician, a city councillor, her name's Sarah Kirby-Young, she said it was hate speech. And she pressured the sign company and they took it down. So I was paying $3,000 a month for that sign. It lasted one day. I did end up getting a refund. But that went a bit viral online, of course. And so I leveraged that outrage into a quick little fundraising campaign. And a week later had the same billboard up in San Francisco, and then LA, Portland, all throughout Utah, all throughout the metro in Washington, D.C. And then at the end of September 2020, I put one up in Times Square. So that was my September, doing billboards all over the US where they stayed up because freedom of speech is still alive and well here. But back in Canada, I had a conundrum. I have a vision to start millions of conversations because I know when people talk about this and when they learn about it, that we're going to stop it because it's too crazy to last. But I'm a normal guy. I have no platform. I have no media experience. I don't know anybody at all in this fight. I've never been to a protest in my life. I was just a normal person. So I did the only thing I could do. They took down my sign, but they can't take one off my back. I know my rights. So I had some signs made. And instead of holding them all day, which is just kind of annoying, I wear them. And I know I look silly, but it works. And I haven't stopped. I've been traveling Canada. And then when the borders opened up during COVID in November of 2021, I started coming to the States. And I just keep having conversations outside. I started recording them really just to protect myself because I get attacked sometimes. People make false allegations. So I always have the camera running. And then I started posting those conversations. And that's very effective in helping to educate people. So instead of just one person at a time, sometimes I'm educating millions at a time. And I quit my job back in September 2020 to do this because I'm not sending my girls into a world that doesn't know what a woman is. And I'm not sending them into a world trying to change the sex of children, because the positive message we should be sending our kids is they're beautiful just as they are. No drugs or scalpels needed. This ideology teaches they were born wrong, and we're going to put a stop to it.
I think you're a hero, Chris. And I've been watching your work for a few years now, and it's very encouraging and inspiring to see someone who, again, like you said, I was just, you were a financial advisor, you're working hard, dad, husband, and you saw something wrong in the world and you stood up and you said, I'm going to go and solve it. I'm going to do my part to solve it. More people, I think, did that. We would have a very different world right now.
Yes. So I don't think I'm a hero. I'm just a guy having conversations. It's really not that hard. But in our civilization, we tend to put too much responsibility on the shoulders of our president or our prime minister. They can do a lot, but there's still only one person. To truly change the culture, it takes the regular people to stand up and start doing things about it, whether it's running for your school board or having conversations with your friends, having conversations with your teachers and the school principal, doing what I do, going outside, talking to people, whatever you're comfortable with, and sometimes what you're not comfortable with too, because we can't always stay in our comfort zone. Sometimes we have to expand that comfort zone, and then it becomes comfortable. But we've got to do our part because this culture is still going downhill. The left has control of all the institutions of power. Really, in our culture, all the universities are dominated by leftist professors teaching these very damaging ideologies that are infecting the entire West. So with your main issue, of course, pro-life, protecting our unborn, a lot of these young people are radicalized towards abortion at universities. It's the same thing with gender ideology. That's where a lot of them are radicalized. That's where they're lied to. They're told that kids are going to kill themselves if we don't transition them, which is an outright lie. But it preys on the natural empathy and compassion, particularly of young women. And they want to protect kids. They're not all evil, but they're being lied to. And so they become the counselors and the social workers and the teachers, and then they start spreading this throughout society. And international students take it abroad. And we have this being pushed by all the leftist governments, all the intergovernmental bodies like the UN and the World Health Organization. We have NGOs with billions of dollars pushing this. So it's not just a fad, which I've seen online a bit recently. None of this was ever organic. The whole 6-7 thing going on with young kids these days, I don't know if you know about it because your kids are too young, but with teenagers, this 6-7 thing became a fad where anytime the numbers 6-7 were mentioned, it was a big fit of giggles. And it really means nothing. That's a fad. That's already dying out. This was funded and pushed by all of these institutions of power in our society, and they're still pushing it. So in 3 years' time, if the Republicans don't get elected again, we're going to have Democrats in power pushing all of this again. And it's still on all these universities. So what do? We can't get rid of these professors because they have tenure. So we have to have a presence on universities. That's what Charlie Kirk was doing so amazingly well, was building up this conservative presence, making Christianity, making conservatism, making patriotism cool again. And we have to continue that. But it can't be just Turning Point. It has to be all these different conservative organizations, and it has to be each person doing what they can to restore order in our society, because we have all these institutions that are working against us.
I think what your focus being college campuses is so crucial. Recently, Live Action, so we've always done youth outreach through digital media. We started a college campus program. So now we're intentionally going out to on the boots on the ground, help train college students, work with them. I wanted to ask you really quick though, before getting into your work and what that daily work is looking like, because it's really fascinating. And you've also had a ton of run-ins with the powers that be, including those that oppose free speech. And so there's so much to talk about there. But you mentioned JK Rowling. That was your first billboard, was about JK Rowling. All you said was, I love JK Rowling.
Yes.
And she is inarguably the most successful contemporary children's author. You know, her books, obviously, I think they're at $1 billion in sales or more. I don't know. I probably have that number wrong here, so you can look it up, but it's
probably.
It's billions. It's a tremendously successful. She's a tremendously successful author. Why I love JK Rowling? For those who maybe don't know the backstory. And why was that so controversial?
So J.K. Rowling was one of the principal people in the world speaking out against the violations of women's rights and against this child abuse of giving kids these drugs and hormones and surgeries. So when a lot of the celebrity class was afraid to talk about this, she wasn't. And she's actually a lifelong leftist, a feminist. And so she alienated a lot of people on the left. She became the subject of a lot of threats and negative language, but really that's all online. I mean, we do need to be careful, especially someone in a prominent position like that. I'm sure she's had to beef up her security because we do have a lot of really unhinged people, particularly on this transgender subject, who do commit violence to try to silence people. But she just spoke up for women and for kids. That's all. And she just told the truth. Women can't be men. Apparently that's controversial today. And it's as controversial to say, I love her. Right. You have to take down, you literally have your billboard taken down because you didn't even say women can't be men on the billboard. You just said, I love JK Rowling. Just said, I love JK Rowling. It's wild. And I was reading Harry Potter at the time. My youngest daughter was 8. So at bedtime every night we were reading Harry Potter. I think we were on the 3rd or 4th book. And, you know, this is also setting an example for my kids, to show them what one person can do when they put their mind to something. But we do love J.K. Rowling, and now we have all of these terrible people and all these media companies saying awful things about her, and none of it's true. So if we can't tell the truth in the world, what are we doing? I'm not going to live in that world. I'm not going to live in a post-truth world where we can't tell the truth. So not everyone's going to be wired like me or like you, but we can all do something. But for me, I just felt a calling to do something about this. And so that's what I'm doing. And I don't make any money, but I'm a lot happier.
If you had known at, let's say 21-year-old Chris or teenage Chris, would you or anyone that knew you and loved you around that time have guessed that Chris would become an activist? Is that something like he was always had an activist edge, or is it more that this felt like a calling because you saw something wrong that was so wrong that you couldn't just pretend like it wasn't happening and so you had to go do something?
I don't think anyone could have predicted this. I wasn't the type to go to protests. I'd literally never been to a protest in my life before I started this whole thing. And I don't consider myself a protester. People sometimes think that. And I have held some protests, but I'm just out there to educate. And I wear the sign. It's just a conversation starter. That's all it is. I don't like a lot of people with me because then it's too intimidating for others to approach. So it's usually just me out there or maybe one other person. But more than that, it becomes too much. So I think I did always have in me this innate drive to try to make the world a better place. I wasn't just chasing money. Even though I was in the financial world, money was not something that was ever that interesting to me. It's always about living a life with some more purpose behind it. I don't want to sit at a desk and just chase money. That's not fun. And then when you have kids, of course, your priorities change completely. Your life's all about your kids. It's not about me at all. So I'm gone from home a fair bit. I am home most of the time. People probably don't think that from online because sometimes I might post a video from last week when I'm at home. But I think it's been amazing for my family. My girls are thriving. They're getting straight A's. They're thriving socially and athletically. They go to youth groups and they're very involved. So I don't have to worry about them too much.
Sounds like you've got a good wife too.
I have an amazing wife. She's a teacher.
Helping out at home. Yes. Beautiful.
Yeah.
What does your sign say, Chris?
My main sign says children cannot consent to puberty blockers.
Sounds pretty baseline logical that really anybody, even the puberty block promoters, should acknowledge as a fact. If children can't consent to sex, how can they possibly consent to something that blocks their sexual development?
Can't get a tattoo. Can't get aspirin at school without parental notification and approval. Can't go on a field trip without your parents signing an approval. But now schools want to engage in psychological interventions with our kids, giving our baby girl a boy's name and male pronouns while they actively hide it from parents. This is the policy in many states. It's the policy in California. My friend Sonia Shaw, who is the chair of the Chino Valley Unified School District, their school board actually passed a regulation requiring schools to inform parents if their child has a new name and pronouns at school. Governor Newsom then passed a law banning school districts from requiring parental notification when they are treating their own child as though they're the opposite sex. Wild. This is not a benign thing. They are engaging in a psychological intervention with absolutely no training to do so. And what is this psychological intervention? It is treating a child as though there is something innately wrong with them. That is the message of gender ideology. It teaches they were born in the wrong body. What does that even mean? Nobody can tell you. I know because I've asked 10,000 people that question. Nobody can tell me. Nobody can tell me what a gender identity is. Nobody can define what a transgender person is without resorting to circular definitions. Or ultimately, what this really comes down to is stereotypes. So if you have a girl who likes climbing trees and playing football with the boys and wants to have short hair and hates wearing dresses, well, maybe she's transgender. Really? We're going to tell this beautiful girl, because that's what she is, that she was born in the wrong body because she likes boy toys and boy sports and boy activities. Maybe they're just more fun than playing with dolls. Maybe. Or a boy who plays with dolls. We're going to tell him he's a girl. Now, I know what some people at home are thinking. They're not saying that, Chris. Yes, they are. Boston Children's Hospital released a series of videos a few years ago on their YouTube channel from their gender clinic.
Let's watch it. You know how much I love and support EveryLife.com, America's only pro-life diaper company, and also its fastest growing diaper company. Well, now the great team over at EveryLife has officially launched something new. They've created EveryLife Women, a clean, premium feminine care line designed to honor women the way God intended. I've tried these products and they're great. Their pads and tampons are thoughtfully designed with 100% certified organic cotton. EveryLife Women brings uncompromising integrity together with comfort and care that you can count on. No harsh ingredients, no toxins, just products that reflect dignity and the truth of who we are as women. You can try EveryLife's new feminine care brand, EveryLife Women, with my code Lila for 10% off your order. Visit everylife.com/Lila to shop now and use the code Lila at checkout. A good night of sleep makes all the difference in the world, and Cozy Earth wants to make sure that that's not only possible, but probable for you. Cozy Earth sheets are what my husband and I have on our bed, and they are our favorite sheets hands down. Crafted from viscose from bamboo for an incredibly soft feel that keeps you cozy without overheating. The Bubble Cuddle Blanket is the perfect gift for cozy winter moments, and it combines comfort and style with a distinctively textured bubble design and an ultra soft faux fur feel. Cozy Earth also confidently offers a 100-night sleep trial, as well as a 10-year warranty. Right now, you can stack my code Lila on top of their site-wide sale, giving you up to 40% off in savings. These deals won't last, so start your holiday shopping early. That's CozyEarth.com and use the code Lila for up to 40% off your order. Give the gift of better sleep this Christmas season. That's CozyEarth.com.
Let's watch one of these. So there's two that I gave you. Let's watch the one with the pink background.
Where they're talking about how the parents know.
Yes.
Let's do it.
A child will often know that they are transgender from the moment that they have any ability to express themselves, and parents will often tell us this. We have parents who tell us that their kids, they knew from the minute they were born practically, and actions like refusing to get a haircut or standing to urinate, trying to stand to urinate, refusing to stand to urinate, trying on siblings' clothing, playing with the, quote, opposite gender toys, things like that. There is more and more a group of adolescents that we are seeing that really are coming to the realization that they might be trans or gender diverse a little bit later on in their life. So what we're seeing from them is that they always sort of knew something was maybe off and didn't have the understanding to know that they might be trans or have a different gender identity than the one they had been assigned.
Able to be
so
treated.
That is a growing population that we are seeing.
Boston Children's Hospital. Who is this lady?
And able to be treated.
So that's Dr. Jeremy Carswell. She's the director of the Gender Multi-Specialty Clinic at Boston Children's, the #1 ranked pediatric hospital in the country. And she says that playing with opposite gendered toys are a sign your child is transgender and can be treated. A girl trying to pee standing up. Well, guess what? If a girl has big brothers, she's probably going to try to pee standing up. A boy peeing sitting down? Come on, this is ridiculous. Trying on a sibling's clothing. If a boy has big sisters, they're going to play dress up. It's called play. These people are insane. But that video, they deleted it from their YouTube channel 3 years ago, but not before I recorded it. Because I had earlier tweeted out a video about gender affirming hysterectomies that they're performing at the hospital.
At Boston Children's Hospital?
Yes.
A children's hospital is performing hysterectomies.
For gender. We have that video too. But that video started to go a bit viral. I had tweeted it out and I thought I'd better record this because they're looking awful and they'll probably delete it. And I was actually on holiday at the time with my family, but I'm never on holiday. The kids are playing, I'm working. So I recorded 40 different videos that their gender clinic had produced. And that night they deleted them all. So I started pumping out these different videos. They get more gruesome than the last. And they talk about penile inversion surgeries and how sometimes they'll cut off the tissue from a girl's forearm.
This is on children. These are minors.
Well, they do it at the hospital. I think they see kids up until they're 21 or something like that. But
Chloe Cole had a double mastectomy at age 15.
That's right. So they are 100% doing double mastectomies in the United States of America, including in California, on children as young as 12 years old. I have a video that I sometimes tweet out from Kellen Lackhart. She is the psychologist at Kaiser Permanente in Oakland, California. And she admits they've cut off the breasts of a 12-year-old girl and done penile inversion surgeries on 16-year-old boys. Having started the process, she says, at 15. And I think when she says that, she's referring to hair removal, which they have to do 6 months to a year in advance, or else you get these ingrown hairs and infections. And so this is just totally gruesome. I don't even want to get into it all. People can research this on their own if they want. But yes, this is happening in children's hospitals. And even if they're not doing the gender affirming hysterectomies until 18, well, they're indoctrinating these children from 3 or 4 years of age. They will see kids that young. I have other videos from that same hospital where they see kids that age and they start socially transitioning them. They're telling the 3-year-old girl that she's really a boy. She was in diapers 6 months ago. And then what happens in the system? The psychologists affirm it. The counselors affirm it.
It's child abuse, Chris.
It's child abuse. It's psychological abuse. Then it's physical abuse. They're sterilizing kids. They start them on these puberty blocking drugs at Tanner stage 2. That's the technical term. So Tanner stage 2 is when you first get your pubic hair. So kids are 10, 11, 12. And the theory behind this, if I were to steel man their argument, why do they do this? They do this because it would be too traumatic for a boy to develop into a man, and it would make it harder for him to pass as a woman. So therefore, they need to keep him looking neutral. They need to keep the girls looking neutral, so that when they go on the opposite sex hormones, they'll then pass better as the opposite sex. It's really all about passing. They're 10, 11, 12, and who are these kids who end up at gender clinics? Invariably, and this is not my opinion, this is according to all the systematic reviews that have been done. A systematic review is the gold standard in medicine. It's where they look at all the peer-reviewed research, all the scientific literature, and then they come out with this review. It's called a systematic review. It's been done in England. It's been done in Sweden. It's now been done by the HHS here in the US. All these reviews come to the same conclusion. No evidence or extremely low evidence to support any of this. And then you contrast that with these grave harms that are being done.
To support any of what?
Giving kids puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and
no
surgeries.
Evidence that it is...
That it's helping them.
Helping them.
Correct.
And how are they measuring outcomes? It's like this, the meta studies of the studies, or all of the studies combined. How are they measuring outcomes based on mental health outcomes? You know, the kids reporting themselves, how they're feeling. What are the different things that are queried? Well,
this is the thing. A lot of times there's no evidence because a lot of these kids are lost to follow-up. They don't even know. But yeah, it's self-reported outcomes. It's things like suicides, things, psychiatric visits,
addictions.
Yeah, all that. So what these puberty blockers, for any doctors watching, for people who really want to dig into the technicalities, these are gonadotropin releasing hormone analogs. They stop the pituitary gland from releasing 2 hormones called luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. These in turn are what trigger you at the onset of puberty to release estrogen, me to produce testosterone. These are what trigger our secondary sex characteristics to develop. So girls, obviously, they grow breasts, their hips get wider, boys get stronger, deep voice, hairy face, you know, all the stuff that happens in puberty. While they're on this drug, that won't happen. Boys' genitals stop developing. So you end up with these 18-year-old men, 20-year-old men who now want to get the surgery, what they call bottom surgery. This is a castration and a penile inversion where they invert the penis. And I'm really sorry if this gets gruesome, but it is important to know some of these details. But because the boy's penis never grew during all those years of puberty, they don't have enough tissue to do this inversion, to get the depth that they want. So what do? They will cut out some of the boy's colon or some of his peritoneum, the lining of his abdominal cavity, and they will use that to form the interior lining of this neo-vagina.
Why do they want depth in this vagina? This fake plastic surgery created piece of flesh.
I think people can probably figure that out.
That's non-functioning.
Right. And some people have died after this. I wrote a story, I published the news about a young man who developed necrotizing fasciitis, death of tissue that kept spreading and spreading and they couldn't stop it and he died. There's another young man, I think his name was Yale, from here in California. The surgery, the complications were so severe that he ended up taking his own life. Others have developed what's called a fistula. It's a passage between their urinary tract and their fake vagina, which causes infections and they can't fix it. This is Frankenstein stuff going on. And they're doing this with our most vulnerable kids. These kids at these gender clinics invariably have all sorts of things. We know from the systematic review in England that 70% of these kids had 5 or more coexisting mental health comorbidities. They didn't have 1 or 2. They had 5 or more, the majority. So autism is extremely prevalent. And then when we know from the Tavistock in England, 35% of the kids had moderate to severe autism. That's not including the more mild cases. There is a law firm out of Texas called Campbell Miller Payne. 4 Christian dads with, I think, 18 kids between them, formed this new law firm just to sue for all these young people. Great guys. They're friends of mine now. But they're looking at about 150 other cases right now. And in virtually every case, the child has autism.
It's so devastating. This is just children who are looking for identity, love, expression, and they're being put through these experiments, these vicious, damaging, lifelong damaging experiments.
Yeah, they're maybe not fitting in as well with the kids. And what are they being told? Well, that's because you were born in the wrong body. We
just had Nisa Powers on the show, who is in the process of detransition and also conversion to Christianity. He is going through RCIA now. It was before she, and is a man, of course, and just sharing about how he was bullied viciously and didn't fit in. And so he thought, I'm safer as a girl. And then we had Jessica Rose on the show, another detransitioner, talking about her experience, but her friend who went through bottom surgery, as you were describing, and still has a colostomy. How do you say colostomy, right?
Colostomy.
Still has a colostomy bag because they totally destroyed his bowels, I guess, and his inner part of his body, trying to create a neo-vagina. And now he's just damaged maybe for life. I mean, definitely for life.
Yeah. So autistic kids and a lot of kids who've been sexually abused. Majority.
Jessica Rose was sexually abused. She shared about that.
It's very common. Chloe Cole was.
At my house, we start our mornings with 7 Weeks coffee. And trust me, this is the pro-life coffee that you'll want to be drinking on Christmas morning. Not only is 7 Weeks coffee organic, pesticide-free, mold-free, low acid, and absolutely delicious, it is my personal favorite to drink in the morning. I love the Ethiopia medium roast. My husband loves it too. 7 Weeks coffee also works directly with farmers, making sure they're paid more than 300% the fair trade requirement. So get your delicious gourmet coffee over at 7weekscoffee.com and save 15% forever when you subscribe. And this holiday season, you can claim up to 4 free gifts with your first order. Plus, exclusively for my listeners of this show, use the code Lila for an extra 10% off your first order. That's a 25% total savings on your first order, plus up to 4 free gifts. Just use code Lila at 7weekscoffee.com. As we enter into one of the most beautiful and holy times of the year, Advent, Hallow's Pray 25 Challenge, Be Still, is an invitation to set aside the endless to-do lists and to build a daily habit of quiet prayer. You'll be guided through the story of the Nativity, and for families, Hallow is offering a kids' Advent prayer challenge as well. Of course, Hallow also has thousands of other prayers, meditations, and beautiful Christmas music. So if your heart is longing for a more prayerful, Christ-centered Advent, I encourage you to join millions around the world in Hallow's Pray 25 Challenge, Be Still. You can download the Hallow app today and get 3 months free at hallow.com/Lila. Take this Advent to slow down, listen, and to rediscover the peace that comes only from Jesus. That's hallow.com/Lila for 3 months free.
So there's a really powerful video from UCLA last year when I was there in October. I had only been there for a few minutes, and this young woman came up to speak with me. Her name's Clementine. And she told me her story. I don't know if we want to watch that here, but she was 7 years old when she was sexually abused. Now, I don't think I need to tell many of your listeners, this is pretty common sense. I'm a guy and I can figure it out. If a girl's been sexually abused, maybe she's not going to love being a girl right now. Maybe she's going to want to hide her femaleness. And when they get to puberty, now they're being sexualized. They go from being these perfectly innocent children to now they're being sexualized. Well, what do a lot of girls do? They hide. And
terrifying.
They wear hoodies. Now they can get their breasts cut off. And so she was seeing her school counselor when she was 12 because she was having some struggles, obviously. And what did her school counselor say? Because she didn't want to be female, that meant she was a boy. And so they socially transitioned her at school. The parents were told, you have a trans boy. Now, the parents know nothing about this subject. What do? They do what a lot of parents do. They go to the experts. They went to see Johanna Olsen Kennedy at the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, where on the first meeting, this is the gender clinic woman, and she's one of the premier people in the United States pushing this. The first meeting, she separated Clementine from her parents, 12-year-old Clementine. In half an hour, she prescribed her puberty blockers. Now, I just want to pause for a second and encourage people to think about this. What do you know about someone in half an hour? Nothing. I've known you for more than half an hour now. I know very little about you. But this is a 12-year-old girl who is now being given a chemical castration drug, which will stop her body from going into its natural development. Women with endometriosis are only recommended to get this drug for 6 months because the side effects are so severe. I'm sure a lot of the women watching this have been on this drug. It's called Lupron. Sleeplessness, aches all over their body, bone pain. It causes bone demineralization. There's a young girl in Sweden who has this condition called osteopenia, like osteoporosis. She's in chronic pain because she was on this drug from 12 to 15. I spoke to a mom in California whose daughter was on this drug from those same years, 12 to 15. She lost 12% of her bone density at a time when her bones should have been getting stronger. But anyway, half an hour, puberty blockers. She knows nothing about her. Didn't ask about the sexual abuse, nothing. And separately, the parents were told they could have a dead daughter or a live son. Now, it sounds cliche. You hear about this all the time. You hear about it all the time because it's said all the time. This is literally their script. So now the parents are being coerced. They believe that their daughter is going to kill herself. This is what the doctor is saying if they don't transition her. So they go along with it. At 13, Johanna Olsen Kennedy pushed her onto testosterone. At 14, she got a double mastectomy by Scott Mosser in San Francisco, a surgeon who met her the morning of her surgery. He also knows nothing about her. And so the testosterone caused psychosis. She went off it at 17. She's now suing. Johanna Olsen Kennedy also wanted her to get a hysterectomy. So she's very likely unable to ever have kids because she started puberty blockers young and then went straight to testosterone. So it's a virtual certainty she can never have kids. And they cut her breasts off. And what penalty are they going to face? Nothing, because this hasn't been criminalized. There might be a civil damage payout that'll be covered by the insurance company. And Johanna Olsen Kennedy, the good news I can report is her gender clinic in Children's Hospital of Los Angeles has been shut down.
Why?
Thanks to the Trump administration, because they're pulling federal funding from any hospital engaged in this. But she's set up shop up in San Francisco working with Scott Mosser, that surgeon, at a private clinic. So it's business as usual for her, making a lot of money. And her spouse, a woman identifying as a man, ran she was a social worker for Los Angeles County. So all these troubled kids
were
coming to her wife, who identifies as trans. She's indoctrinating them. Then she's sending them to Johanna Olsen Kennedy to do the physical transition.
Who's paying for that? The state of California.
That's right. It's
so demonic, Chris. I know that you don't come at this from a demonic, you don't see it. Well, I won't speak for you. I know that, that's not typically what you include in your messaging when you're talking to people on the street, but we'll say it loud and clear here because it is absolutely demonic, like abortion in my view, because abortion kills children. This is the destruction of the child after they're born.
Yes. We are really working in tandem on a really similar issue, actually. When I was in DC a couple years ago, I happened to be there when Roe versus Wade was overturned. So I went to the Supreme Court, where outside you had all these abortion advocates. Every single one of them despised me. My sign wasn't about abortion. It says children cannot consent to puberty blockers. They all despised me.
Abort the kids and trans the kids.
It's basically one big death cult.
Yes.
I view gender ideology as a cult. For all practical purposes, it's a cult, has all the same characteristics. There's not a set cult leader, but it has all the same characteristics. The same tricks are played. The same thought-stopping mechanisms are in place with the people who believe in this. They don't allow conversation. They try to shut it down. They don't allow themselves to question anything. If they leave the cult of gender or they detransition, we don't need to use the word cult necessarily, but let's say someone detransitions. What happens? Are they applauded by all their previous friends? Do they receive warmth and kindness for figuring out who they really are? Because that's the argument that the left always uses. Yay, congratulations, you found your true self. You're really a boy. Well, as soon as they realize, no, I'm a girl, they're not celebrated. They're vilified. Because they don't want you to find your true self. They want you to be trans. And that's it. So
Jessica Rose wasn't able to get care. She's trying to detransition. She's a woman, thought she was a man, was sexually abused, the whole story. Kaiser Permanente, I believe it was the one, gave her the double mastectomy, wanted to do the hysterectomy, like the whole thing. When she's detransitioning, she doesn't know where to go. They don't help you with detransitioning. They don't care for your damaged, wounded body after they've done the evils to it. They're just now stuck. And she ends up going to a pro-life pregnancy center. And that's where she ends up getting care and GYN care and support for her detransition.
Wow.
Of course, that's not tax funded.
Right. I've met so many detransitioners who are trying to get reconstructive surgery and they can't because the insurance companies will gladly pay to destroy bodies, but they won't pay to help repair them after they've destroyed them. And this is all covered by Obamacare. That's when this first was covered. So fortunately, under the Trump administrations, the Center for Medicaid and Medicare is now looking at revising an existing rule which will pull funding from any institution engaged in sex trait modification of children. Not just the funding for the sex trait modification, funding for everything. So that will essentially kill a lot of this. There will still be private funding going on, and the Democrats figure out ways to harm kids as much as they can. As you know, in the pro-life movement, if someone wants to get an abortion, there's going to be many NGOs that will help them do whatever they need to do to get it. So the Democrats and the leftists are going to keep trying to harm kids, but we are making progress. We just ultimately, we have to get this out of schools. We have to make it uncool with the kids. And we are doing that slowly, but we got a lot more work to do.
How was the reception? You were at UCLA yesterday and you were just telling the story of Clementine, who was another visit that you had done at UCLA. I actually want to watch this video of Clementine with you, and then I want to hear how it went yesterday.
Okay.
Because you were just doing this, I think, ground zero culture shaping work of actually having the conversations.
You got it.
So this has 30 million views online, this interaction that you had with Clementine. You're talking about her at UCLA, and Elon Musk retweeted it.
Yes, he did. And what's funny, when I'm speaking with her, I realized right away this is a potential lawsuit because the statute of limitations isn't so long. Because it's changed a little bit now in a few states, but previously the statute of limitations for suing for medical malpractice in every state was 1 to 3 years. And so I thought she had a good chance of suing. And we talk about getting lawyers, and she's been in touch with some lawyers. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I already knew about her case. I was sitting in the parking lot at night at UCLA editing the video, and I realized, wait a minute, I think I've heard about this case. And I looked it up and I read it, and I think it's a slam dunk.
She's a student, Clementine.
She's a student at UCLA.
And she's currently suing
She's suing
the gender clinic.
Johanna Olson Kennedy and CHLA. She's suing the surgeon, Scott Mosser, and the San Francisco hospital. And she's suing a therapist.
May she be wildly successful. All right, let's take a look.
What's your name?
My name's Clementine.
Nice to meet you.
I've actually seen your stuff online, and I'm a huge fan. I was on puberty blockers. I started when I was 12, and I was on testosterone from 14 to 17, and I got top surgery at 17. Totally messed my life up. So I just want to say you're doing a good thing.
Wow.
I can't believe people disagree with you on this. As a former child transitioner, I'm just appalled that people have anything to question you about. So I salute you.
I'm so sorry you had to go through all that. I'm glad you are through it now. Thank you so much for speaking up. That's extremely valuable because a lot of people are afraid to.
Yeah.
Do you mind if we have a little conversation about it?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, come on in this way just a little bit.
Oh yeah, for sure. Hi.
So, your name again?
My name's Clementine.
Clementine. So Clementine went on puberty blockers at what age?
12.
And you detransitioned at?
I detransitioned earlier this year, actually, but I had been going off testosterone since about 17 because it gave me psychosis.
When did they put you on testosterone?
I was 13.
Wow. And when did you have a double mastectomy?
I had a double mastectomy at 14. I'm currently going through the process of getting reconstructive surgery, and it was harder to get that approved. I actually wasn't able to get it approved by my insurance.
Right.
But it was much harder to get surgery for that than it was to actually get the original top surgery procedure.
For everyone watching this who says this isn't happening, well, it happened to Clementine. At 14, a double mastectomy, puberty blockers at 12, testosterone at 13. How old are you now?
I'm 20 now. I just turned 20.
Have you ever talked to anyone about suing?
I can't disclose what's going on, but yeah, it's...
Okay, because I'm here to help you
something
find
I'd like
someone
to
if you
do.
need someone.
Yeah, I've spoken... Do you know Campbell Miller Payne?
I do.
I've talked to them a bunch.
Fantastic. So Campbell Miller Payne is a law firm for dads in Texas who all left their previous law firms and started a new one just to sue for kids and young people like Clementine who've been harmed by this madness. And these are great guys. They could have done anything to make a bunch of money, but they started a law firm. They left all their previous firms. They have 18 kids between them, and they're going to cause a lot of waves. I know some good lawsuits coming too, which we aren't allowed to announce yet.
Yeah, I really hope so.
That's one of the ways out of this mess we've gotten into.
I don't know how a child could consent to the loss of their fertility.
Yeah.
Children can't conceptualize that, and I think people don't understand that.
So what got you into this in the first place?
I was sexually abused as a child, and that was totally ignored, but I started having a lot of negative feelings about my body around puberty, and I was egged on by some guidance counselors that I might be transgender, and I later decided that I was really a boy and my life would be so much easier because of all this abuse that I had experienced because of being a woman, and I totally just rejected womanhood because I thought that all that it meant for me was pain. That's kind of how I got there, but
and what got
getting
you
out of it, getting out of it was a really difficult process for me, but mostly it was just getting the right therapy. I went to DBT therapy, and we never discussed my gender. We only discussed my sexual abuse, and after I dealt with that, I realized I didn't want to do this anymore, and the loss of my fertility and my body just started to really sink in, and I realized, like, oh my God, I've built this entire persona around misogyny.
Do you know for sure that you've lost your fertility?
I'm not 100% sure,
Okay.
but
you were on
I'm not the
testosterone
most
for
hopeful.
4
I never
years.
went through female puberty, so yeah.
Right. I'm so sorry, but thank you so much for speaking up.
Yeah,
It's extremely
thank you for
brave.
speaking to me.
It's extremely powerful. I'm so sorry what was done to you, but this is going to help other people not
I'm so glad
to
you're
fall
doing
down
what
this
you're
rabbit
doing.
hole.
Keep going.
One last question, and just come in a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
Before you started on the puberty blockers, you've just shared with me this sexual abuse that happened to you before you started on those.
Yeah.
Did anyone ask you about that?
No, not was that brought up once during the meeting. I was only asked, do I like hanging out with boys? Do I get fit in better with boys? What kind of things am I into? Just really surface level questions. And I was prescribed puberty blockers 30 minutes into my appointment after being out for 4 months.
First appointment?
Yes.
With?
Dr. Joanna Olson Kennedy at Los Angeles Children's Hospital.
Johanna Olson Kennedy. I've talked a lot about her, and I'm going to put more about her underneath this video. She's running the busiest gender clinic in the country at Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. She received a grant from the NIH a few years ago for $5.7 million, and part of that grant application, she asked for approval to give opposite sex hormones to kids as young as 8 years old.
Yeah,
She is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, gender ghoul in the United States of America. Did she talk to your parents?
She did, and she told them the same thing that she tells everybody, that I was deeply suicidal, and that if they didn't let me transition, I would be at high risk for suicide. And I only attempted to kill myself after I transitioned.
So she convinced them that they had two options, a dead daughter or a live son.
Yes.
Did she even use those words?
She did use those exact words.
Wow. Give me a hug.
Thank you for talking to me.
Thank you for talking to me. Crazy.
Wild. So
she's so sweet. She's beautiful. She's well-spoken. All she needed was one person to just give her a little bit of help with this sexual abuse. Instead, every single person she came along in the medical system, the therapeutic system, the school system, all affirmed that she was born in the wrong body. And then they sterilized her and cut off her breasts when she was a little girl. I have a 13-year-old. She's fantastic. She's brilliant. But to think that she could make some sort of decision like this when she's already in a really bad place mentally, this is just pure evil, is what it is. So people say, Chris, why'd you get going? That's how we started this conversation in the first place. That's why I got going, because this is one of the most evil things humans have ever done. The government's the ones pushing it oftentimes, especially in my country. So what are we going to do? We got to fight back, and we have to treat this like it's a war, but our weapons aren't guns and missiles. Our weapons are our words, because that's how we change the culture, through having rational dialogue and educating people, because they're all being propagandized all the time.
How do you think it got to this place, Chris? You've done obviously a lot of research on this. You started noticing it now over 5 years ago. You've had 30,000 conversations, but you pay close attention to what's going on with these. You called them a gender ghoul, which they are. These really, I mean, they're human experimenters. I mean, is what they're doing. They're human experimentation on live subjects who are completely defenseless. I mean, they're children in many cases, like we're talking about. But how did we get here?
It's a big question. So in the modern era, this really started in the 60s. There were a few gentlemen, one named John Money at Johns Hopkins University, another one called Harry Benjamin, who formed the Harry Benjamin Society, which is now known as WPATH, the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, that writes the standards of care that these children's hospitals around the world follow. There have been a few sexologists along the way that came up with this theory of gender identity. And originally, they viewed this as a disorder. And this was mostly young boys that they were looking at. Young boys who were more feminine. They called this gender identity disorder. And they wanted them to be more masculine. Honestly, if we just left them alone and never named this as a disorder, because it's not, they would have been fine. This whole thing never would have started. But it all started, it was the brainchild of a few men. So this even goes back further than that. It goes back to the pre-Nazi era in the Weimar Republic with a sexologist named Magnus Hirschfeld. He'd started some institute for sexual research, and they actually performed the first sex reassignment surgeries on men there. And
so this is in the early 1900s in Germany.
That's right.
And I
think the first surgeries were done in the 1920s. And Magnus Hirschfeld was a gay Jewish man. So what I see a lot online in my replies is people blaming the Jews for this, because they blame the Jews for everything, of course.
It's pretty sick. I've noticed that, an uptick in that.
Yeah. But what they never talk about is the surgeon who did the first surgeries with him was actually a member of the Nazis. He was a surgeon in the Luftwaffe, the Air Force. His name was Erwin Gorbant, and he's the one that did the first sex reassignment surgery. And they even tried to implant a uterus into a man. That man died.
It's gruesome.
So life's not that simple. We don't just blame classes of people for entire ideologies. We have all sorts of people from all sorts of walks of life who are pushing this. But this was somewhat present in the pre-Nazi era. It then went away for decades. In the modern era, it's been sexologists pushing this again. And this theory of gender identity has been bouncing around academia for decades. It's pushed by a lot of feminist scholars. People like Judith Butler out of UC Berkeley. She's one of the leading figures. They teach that gender is a social construct, that your gender is just a feeling. What's that feeling based off of? It's always stereotypes. So they're now teaching that masculine girls might be trans, feminine boys might be girls, instead of just leaving them alone. I say all the time, we don't have gender identities, we have personalities. And I don't like the word gender anymore either, because the left has corrupted that word so much. They treat gender as though it is something entirely separate from sex. We used it as a synonym for sex for a long time, but that's not how the left views it anymore, so I try not to use that word. I say there are 2 sexes, 0 genders, and infinite personalities. That sums us all up. If you look at the most used resource in the world, it's a cute little image of a gingerbread man called the genderbread person. You will find this in kindergarten classes. You'll find it in children's hospitals. It's been used to train nurses at children's hospitals on the subject of gender identity.
Let's pull it up so
Sure.
people can see this. It's so insane.
Yes. It's just an activist resource produced by some individual.
This is version 2.
Yeah, there's actually a 4th version.
It's pronounced metrosexual.com.
That's who made this. So some activists produced this.
Here we go.
And that's a more basic version. On one
This is the science.
This is the science.
Unbelievable.
On one of the
I'm gonna
poster
text this to you.
versions of this, it defines gender identity right on there. And it says your gender is on a spectrum of femaleness or maleness. But it says your gender identity is based on your personality, your job, your hobbies, your likes and dislikes, your roles in society, and expectations upon you. So the funny thing is, I'll be on a university campus and I'll have someone who's opposed to what I'm doing, who supports gender ideology, and I'll pull up this genderbread person and I'll show them that definition of gender identity. All these people on the left, they all agree with me. They say that's ridiculous. That's wrong. They say stereotypes don't define us. Yet it is exactly that which is causing them to transition children. So there's this blind spot that all these leftists have. They say, yes, we shouldn't put kids in some stereotypical box. But then you have a girl who doesn't conform to stereotypes, and now they want to give her a double mastectomy and sterilize her. Why? Stereotypes. That's all this ideology comes down to. Gender is a social construct. Based on what? What is their belief? It's a social construct based on stereotypes. So they reject the sex binary, but as soon as a girl or a boy doesn't neatly fit the stereotypes of that binary, they say they must be the opposite sex. So the whole thing makes no sense. The challenge is in educating people. A lot of people have pride in their ideas. It's hard to change a mind in a single moment, especially on the street when you've got someone who's hostile with you. But there are tactics, and the tactics I use, and anyone can use these in their conversations, perhaps with family who are on the fence or opposed or whatever. Find a source of agreement, first of all. What I just said, we shouldn't put kids in some stereotypical box. Stereotypes don't define us. There's no right or wrong way to be a girl or a boy. Everyone agrees with that. Everyone. So you can lower the volume of the conversation. You can bring down the hostility. And maybe they're not going to look at you as some evil person because you've found a common source of agreement. And then you can get talking about this because they don't understand. They've been lied to. They've been propagandized for years. These young people have been propagandized almost their entire education, from K to 12 and now into university. They've been learning this. And it's a lot for a person to come to a realization that their entire worldview and all this stuff that they've been taught for a decade has been a lie. So most people aren't going to be capable of acknowledging in that moment that they've been bamboozled, because that's what they've been. But you can plant these seeds. Find a common source of agreement and ask questions. Don't tell them they're wrong. You never change a mind because you tell someone they're wrong. If we view this like a cult, look at how people come out of a cult. They never come out because you tell them they're wrong. They never come out because you present them your side of the argument even. Because again, they have these thought-stopping mechanisms that they automatically deploy for themselves. They won't allow themselves to look at the truth. But you ask questions. What does it mean to be transgender? And then pause. Allow that silence. They don't have an answer. They'll say things like, well, I don't know because I'm not trans. This man at UCLA yesterday told me, well, it's when they transition. And then he tried to change the subject. I said, hold on. Transition is something you do. It's not something you are. What is a transgender person? The noun. What does it mean to be transgender? Nobody can tell you. Some might say, well, they have a gender identity different than their sex assigned at birth. Well, that's a circular definition. You're now using gender to define gender. So what's gender ultimately is the question we come down to when we get right to the root of it. What is gender? They say it's a feeling. Being a boy is a feeling. Being a girl is a feeling. A feeling based on what? And when you get them thinking, they start to see the holes in this argument. And they're going to go home and they're never going to forget that conversation. And some point in the future, they will start questioning this themselves. And when they finally discover for themselves that this makes no sense and they've been lied to, that's how they come out of it. Now, someone who's more on the fence, yeah, you can change a mind on the spot if you have a long conversation. I had an 85-minute conversation outside the University of Pennsylvania with a gay black man who rode by on his bike swearing at me. And sometimes with the men, I'll challenge them to come back, have a little conversation. And to his credit, he did. And he was all amped up. And what happens, sometimes people are so shocked to see me. They can't believe someone has a sign saying children cannot consent to puberty blockers. My gosh, how dare I? They're having this adrenaline rush.
No, you're a white cis male.
That's right.
So that's why, like, to add insult to injury.
Exactly. And I shaved my head. So I'm everything bad. But what often happens, they're shaking. It's this adrenaline dump. They can't help it. Their whole body's shaking. His face was ticking. And I did exactly what I just explained. I found this common source of agreement. And I pointed out how a lot of these kids historically grew up to be gay. He's a gay man. I said, now they're telling these kids they're born wrong. They're sterilizing them. And what he told me off camera, he didn't want to admit to it on camera, but he said when he was growing up, he had a phase where he thought really he should have been a girl. And he also had abuse and all this stuff. But if he was growing up today, they would have transitioned him. So it totally clicked. And at the end of this epic 85-minute conversation, he was giving me a big hug and he agreed with everything I had to say. So it is possible. We just have to educate people because we have the truth on our side. And you can do it civilly and rationally and with kindness. Because the other thing we haven't talked about, most people out there, including the ones pushing this, they have no idea what's really going on. They don't believe kids are being sterilized. They say that's not happening. Then you show them irrefutable proof. Often it's not happening turns into, okay, it's happening, but it's good. Why did they say it's not happening in the first place? They only say that because they know it's wrong. But in that moment, their pride doesn't allow them to concede. But you've reached them. So just keep having these conversations. People don't know about the abuse that's happening. Even conservatives didn't know about it a few years ago. Now they do. And this was the number one issue for swing voters in the presidential election. More than immigration, more than the economy. Transgender insanity was the number one issue for swing voters. And this is a winning issue for all political parties. So everyone watching this online, all you politicians in Canada, if you're watching this, stop being afraid to talk about it. It's a winning issue to say kids are beautiful just as they are. It's a winning issue to say men shouldn't be in women's sports. It's a huge winning issue to say male rapists don't belong in women's prisons. People are done with the insanity. We just have to find that tiny bit of courage to speak about it.
Tell me more about what you're seeing with men being in women's prisons.
Oh boy. This is a real life example. There's a man in British Columbia. Oh boy. If your kids are watching, maybe pause this for a moment.
We probably already paused if the kids are.
Yeah.
This is a mature audience, this episode for sure.
This man raped a 3-month-old boy who required reconstructive surgery.
The child survived.
Yeah. He drowned.
How did he get access to this baby?
I have no idea.
By the way, never let anyone babysit your child that you don't trust 1,000%.
That's right.
Or leave your child alone with someone that you don't trust 1,000%. And I would argue it should be family, and it should be family that you trust 1,000%.
Yes, family for sure. Never let a man who's not family babysit your children.
Yes.
The number one demographic for sexual assault is unrelated males. You probably know this statistic better than me, but it's someone somehow associated with the family, but it's not an immediate familial relation, and it's men.
I know someone who had a very young child, and they knew a gay couple, 2 men. They kept offering to babysit. We'll babysit for you. We'll babysit. We love kids. I felt weird about it. We're not going to let you babysit our child. The men were both child pornography, child sexual assault material users,
right,
trying to actually assault real children in real life, and ended up in prison. Thank God they ended up in prison.
It's something uncomfortable to talk about, so people don't talk about it, but it's far more common than we expect. So yeah, you got to know who's babysitting your kids. Your kids are more important than that date night out, as far as I'm concerned. But find a really trusted individual to take care of your kids. Anyway, this man raped a 3-month-old boy, and he drowned a 3-year-old boy. Obviously, he went to prison.
He drowned the 3-year-old boy. Was that a was it their sexual abuse involved there, or what was he was just a psychopathic
I don't know all the
child
details.
Destroyer.
But I would have heard, so I don't think there was sexual abuse in that case. And he was still a teenager when this happened. So he's deeply disturbed, dark, evil individual.
So he did these horrific things to children as a teenager himself.
Yes. But he was put in prison. Then while in prison, the British Columbia government paid for him to get breast implants. And because he's now identifying as a woman, they transferred him into the Fraser Valley Penitentiary for Women. It's 30 minutes from my house. It's in the suburbs of Vancouver. And in our female prisons in Canada, there are units with moms with their small children. Up to a certain age, they can have their kids with them. So they have this separate unit. They even have kind of little houses that they can live in and cook in. And they can have their young children with them. This man was placed right next door to that unit. And while he's been there, he has, of course, assaulted a woman. A few years ago when... Is
he still there?
Yeah.
Even after he assaulted another person, a woman?
Yes. And so get this. Back in October of 2020, there was an election going on in my province of British Columbia, provincial election. So I went to Victoria, the capital, to meet with the Minister of Education about this. He wouldn't meet with me. I just take the initiative. I just say, I'm going to go. We'll see what happens. I always say good things happen when you go outside. And they do. I came to California. Now I'm talking to you. But I went to meet him. He wouldn't meet. I actually walked into his campaign headquarters. I stumbled upon it. And I walked into this campaign headquarters. There were all these new Democratic Party members. It's called the NDP. They're far left party, basically like a communist party. And they are our ruling party in BC still. And I talked to this woman at the desk. Her name's Grace Lohr. I didn't know who she was. I just walked in and started telling her all about this child abuse, of child transition, all about puberty blockers, everything. And I probably speak about this more intelligently today, but I knew my stuff back then. I knew exactly what I was talking about. And for about 10 minutes, everyone in this building fell quiet. And they listened to me basically give this 10-minute speech to this woman listening to me at the desk. I told her all about the child abuse, and then I got to this women in prison story. And I told her about this man. His name's Adam Labukin. I told her exactly what I just told you. how he raped a baby, went to prison, and with women, the BC government paid for him to get breast implants. And when I was telling that story, another politician shut me down. She said I was making them feel unsafe. And I was telling this story as calm as can be, like I always do. But that made them feel unsafe. 3 times I was told that, and they kicked me out.
This is your elected official.
Yes.
Whose job it is to run the prison system and everything else in Canada. And you're there as a constituent to share your concerns.
Right.
And you made them feel unsafe by just repeating a story that is factual
Correct.
and happening just nearby in their own jurisdiction.
Correct. Telling them about a male baby rapist in a woman's prison who is assaulting women in the prison. That made them feel unsafe, so they kicked me out. I came back the next morning to try to meet with the Minister of Education again. They locked me out. And what had they done after hearing that story the day before? They hung the transgender flag underneath his political poster. I have subsequently told this story online in great detail. Grace Lohr, that woman I was speaking to, who became the Minister of Children and Family Development. Well, what I didn't know at the time I first spoke with her, she was a former gender studies professor at the University of Victoria. Of course. Of course, she becomes the Minister of Children and Family Development.
That's so terrifying. For all of Canada or for just Vancouver?
Just British Columbia.
Or for British Columbia. Wow.
And so when I told this story on Twitter and I tagged her, she responded, proudly stating simply, I stand with the transgender community. That's their response. They don't care.
So they to them, they stand with the child rapist.
That's right.
Because he's decided he's trans, and that's going to be the
He says he's a woman, so he's a woman. Now, this is the same in California with people like Scott Wiener. It's the same with Gavin Newsom. Snake-tongued Gavin Newsom. He'll say whatever you want to hear in that moment, but he doesn't care about any of these issues. He only cares about power. And this is going on in several U.S. states. Washington state is worse than British Columbia.
What's happening in Washington state?
At the age of 13, parents have no access to their children's medical records. They have no ability to intervene in any mental health care for their child. That includes so-called gender-affirming care. And please, to those watching, never use those terms. It's not gender-affirming care. That's a euphemism.
What do you like? What term do you think should be used?
I just use basic language. I mean, I call it a double mastectomy. I don't call it top surgery.
Puberty blockers.
Puberty blockers.
Give it the name
I call it
actually
childhood
what it
sex
does.
changes, perhaps. But you can't change your sex either. I just try to use basic common terms that everyone understands. It's important when speaking about these issues to speak as though a 10-year-old can understand you. We don't need to use the fancy terms. That's the purpose of a communication, is to have your communication received and understood. There's no point using big words if no one knows what you're talking about. So I just try to use basic words so that everyone knows exactly what's going on. But Washington State passed a law. A 13-year-old girl can go get puberty blockers. She can even schedule a double mastectomy without her parents' knowledge or consent. The parent will get the bill for the copay if they have private insurance, but the drug and procedure is redacted. So they're literally paying for it, part of it, with their private insurance, but they don't even know what it is because they have no access to their child's medical records after 13. They have no say on anything mental health related, and gender affirming care falls under that terrible term. Child transition falls under that. So Colorado, similar stuff. They're trying to criminalize misgendering as well. They did just criminalize misgendering in Germany, where I'm going to be in about a month. Hopefully I stay out of jail. Hopefully Antifa stays away from me because they have a large Antifa contingent there. And I do get assaulted from time to time. But I'm going over to Europe. I'm working with some of the big conservative organizations over there to finally get things going, because although we're making all this progress in the US and England, Sweden, Finland, Scotland, they've made some progress. Mainland Europe is a mess. I was actually just arrested in Brussels after speaking at the European Parliament a few months ago.
That was crazy. Can you share what happened?
Sure. So I was invited to speak at the parliament there. I had a round table discussion. I think people from about 10 different countries came. More of the Eastern Bloc countries, Italy, some of the more conservative countries. And so I just did my thing. I'm helping to educate these politicians. And then at 6 p.m. at night, I went out on the street. This was back in the summer, so it was still light out. And Lois McClatchy Miller from ADF International was with me. She's a fantastic young woman, very involved in the pro-life cause.
She's awesome.
Her husband, Callum, travels the world for pro-life activism. He's a medical doctor. He could be making a bunch of money as a doctor, but he decided to become a poor activist instead because he's one of these fantastic individuals living a purpose-driven life. But Lois is the international spokesperson for the Alliance Defending Freedom International. They are a Christian legal organization that help people around the world when their rights are violated. They helped me sue the Australian government earlier this year when I won a freedom of speech lawsuit against their government. But anyway, we went out on the streets to go billboarding, to wear my signs. Mine says children cannot consent to puberty blockers. Lois's sign said children are never born in the wrong body. Brussels is unlike any city I've been to. So much harassment. Very few people agreeing with us. I get 90% support in most places. There it was 4-1 against. And we were being harassed, and Lois was being harassed. She was being followed around by some tall man who kept speaking Flemish just to try to interrupt conversations I was having. He was following her everywhere she walked, trying to block the camera. And I got tired of it. At some point, it becomes criminal harassment. So we called the police. Police arrived. A mob had been forming around us. 4 police vans, 14 police. They formed a circle around us to keep the mob at bay. And they decided we were the problem, ordered us to take our signs off and leave. I refused. Lois refused.
Is there freedom of speech in Brussels?
It's a gray zone.
I've been, and I think they would say there is.
There's supposed to be freedom of expression throughout the European Union and according to the Belgian constitution as well. But then they have all these gray areas. So as far as I'm concerned, they say that you're supposed to get a permit from the mayor, for example, if you're holding a demonstration. Well, I'm not holding a demonstration. I'm just having conversations.
And you're wearing a sign. It's not
Right.
You're not even holding a sign. You're wearing a sign.
Right. So that's debatable. There are other gray areas, but
You could wear it as a t-shirt.
I could. And the same thing would probably happen. They'd say I was causing a disturbance. And they would never give me a permit anyway. This is the same mayor who tried to shut down NatCon last year, a national conservative convention that they held there. Radical leftist mayor. She would never give me a permit. But I just have conversations, and I'm very confident that I'm allowed to do that. So we refused to take off the signs. It sounded like we were getting a fine. They arrested us, took us to a police station. I thought we were just going to get a fine.
You called the police.
Yes.
Because you were getting harassed, and they arrested you and Lois.
Yes, they did, because we refused to take off our signs and leave. So they took us to a police station. Now the story changed. Now we were being charged criminally, we were told, with causing a disturbance. We were handcuffed. I was handcuffed in behind. Lois was actually handcuffed in front of her body at first. And the police officer didn't like that, the main guy. So he told another officer to handcuff her behind her back. And I'm just including this because it was a moment of levity. Her wrists are so small. They didn't put the handcuffs on very tightly. She just slid her hands right out. Then they handcuffed her. Then they took us to another police station. We each were strip searched.
You were strip searched.
Strip searched because we were having conversations.
Lois too.
Yes. And we were then put in cells. She was put in one cell. I was put in another.
Did women strip search her?
Yeah. A woman strip searched her. A man searched me. And as I was standing there in my underwear, he said to me, "So are you like Charlie Kirk?" And I say that because I just want to applaud Charlie Kirk because this was 5 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago. And even in Brussels, his impact was being felt.
Wow. It's amazing.
He was known all over the world. And I said, no, I'm not really like Charlie Kirk, but we do like to have conversations about these important issues. So I actually had this nice congenial conversation with the prison guard, which I've done numerous times. This is my 3rd time going to jail. The previous 2 times after getting assaulted.
We've got to hear about those, Chris. And where
I
you
have
were.
too many stories. I don't know how much time we have. But anyway, we were put in jail and Lois was in the cell next to me. So we were just talking through the bars, like around the corner of the wall. And then they released us at 9 p.m. No ticket, no charges. They sent my signs for destruction.
They stole your signs.
They stole my signs and destroyed them. Yet there's no ticket even. So we're taking legal action.
Yes,
and
good.
I'm formally announcing this at the end of this month. I'm going back to Brussels on December 9th. I have another event in the parliament there. And who knows, maybe I'll get arrested again. Because I'm not going to stop having conversations about this child abuse. I don't believe they have any right to arrest me. I believe if this goes to court, I will win. And I'm willing to take this all the way to Strasbourg, to the European Court of Human Rights, whatever it's called. We will have to go through several layers of court before we get there. It might take 3 or 4 years, but I'll do it because we need to secure the right to speak freely about these subjects throughout Europe. Because this is my philosophy on this whole thing. We can't just battle it in the United States and expect to win. This ideology has to be destroyed everywhere. Because in every home in this country, and in my country of Canada, it's not just what you do politically in your country or your state. Every home has 1,000 lines of communication coming into it. It's called the internet. It's called social media. That's the number one vector for the infection of these kids who are being led to believe that they are transgender. So unless we make gender ideology a relic of the past all around the world, kids are going to keep falling for it. So we have to tackle this globally. And Europe's a big mess, and they're very influential. And we're not always going to have a Republican in power. If an election was held today, probably Democrats would win, I would say.
That's so terrifying.
Certainly the elections from a couple of weeks ago in Virginia, New Jersey, etc., would lead us to believe that. And that's the natural way of things. We go in these cycles. So when Republicans are in power and conservatives are in power, they need to do what they can. But we need to tackle this everywhere. And you're not going to stop me talking about child abuse, because that's my calling in this life. And if I have to take some arrows in the process, I will do so. I've been assaulted probably 40 times.
40 times you've been assaulted.
I've had my arm broken.
Your arm was actually broken.
Mm-hmm. Back in March of 2021, I got jumped by, I think, 6 people in Montreal. I think 5 men. There was actually one woman in there too. But it was a premeditated attack. I didn't know they were coming until I was being punched in the face. Came from 3 different directions, ripped off my signs, stomped on my body cam in the middle of the road. A few of them fled, I believe, in a car. Although I was taking several punches at the time, so it's a little blurry. But I was mad I lost my body cam because I want footage of these people, because there should be repercussions. So I pulled up my phone, and as they're attacking, I'm filming with this hand, and this man picked up a large traffic cone. I have video of this. I can send it to you. And he swung it at my head. It was a big cone, and the base on those things is thick and very dense. So I blocked it 4 times with my forearm as it was coming at my head. And I think on the second blow, it broke my arm. So my ulna was split clean in 2. I have a steel plate in there now. Because it wasn't healing. I felt it clicking together for about a month. But what happened there with the authorities? Nothing. They wouldn't even investigate. Investigator didn't even start for 27 days. I still remember he phoned me, and it was like he was investigating me, asking me questions. And a man had come out to support me. He was asking about him. And I said, I can't believe you're just starting now, first of all, but there's street footage everywhere. All throughout Montreal, there's cameras everywhere. So you can pull the street footage, the CCTV footage, and you can see what car they got into. You can see where they walked after leaving me. And he called me a month later. They'd lost the street footage. And he said there's nothing they can do unless I give them the names of my attackers, who are masked and hooded, and I have no idea who they are. So this has been a recurring theme, especially in Canada. I had one assault where I think it was seen 50 million times just from my account on Twitter. A mob around me, 3 dozen police were present because I'd already called police from a previous assault where my nose was bleeding after my sign was knocked into my face. And the police wouldn't do anything about that. I have men screaming in each ear, F you, F you. Then I was punched in the throat, punched in the head. One guy pulled on my shirt and another guy pushed me from behind simultaneously. So I took a bit of a tumble. And the investigating officer, the only one I was supposed to talk to, was smiling throughout the assault. As I'm falling to the ground, you can see her grinning ear to ear.
She was supposed to be there to protect you.
Yes. So I called the police for this earlier assault. She was the first to show up. So according to their rules, she's the one I'm supposed to talk to. But I knew right away she was a problem because she rolled down the window and I told her what had happened. I'd only been at this event for about a minute when I got graffitied and assaulted. And so I called the police and I knew right away she was a problem. She kind of rolled her eyes and she said to my friend who was with me, well, maybe he scratched himself. It's all on video. I record everything.
Can you sue her? I mean, what's the...
I would have, but I had no money to, and I had no support to.
When was this?
I spoke to one lawyer. This was March 31st, 2023.
Everyone listening should donate to your organization, by the way.
Yeah, they can.
We'll put that link in the bio, in the description.
Sure. I spoke to one lawyer and he was using female pronouns for the man who attacked me. I said, look, this isn't going to work if you're going to do that.
Was the man who attacked you dressed as a woman?
Yeah, he's a man identifying as a woman. 2 of them that attacked me. Other men were attacked that day too. Another man was stuck a bunch from behind. Another older man who came out to support me was thrown to the ground.
Where was this? Is this also
Vancouver?
Vancouver. And what event was this?
Transgender Day of Visibility, because they're not visible enough. And so, yeah, nothing happened there. But I know they did start an internal investigation into that officer later on, but I don't think anything happened from it. And I know that they received thousands and thousands of complaints to the Vancouver Police Department because a member of the police department told me. And I was on Sebastian Gorka's show one day live when he phoned and walked through all his viewers how to file a complaint. It was funny. Hit this button, then he left the complaint live on air. So that probably got 1,000 complaints too. So thank you, Sebastian Gorka. But the police in Canada now all know who I am because there've been so many occurrences. When I first started my campaign, the very first month, I was assaulted by Antifa. I was first encircled by them. Police wouldn't do anything. My phone was then sent flying out of my hand. Police said they didn't even see it. They were all standing there watching. And
so
then
the police, just to be clear here, this is in Canada. Which part of Canada was this incident?
Vancouver.
And the police are there watching you get assaulted.
Yes. And then blaming me. That officer that day, for that really visible assault that 50 million people watched, she said I instigated.
Because you were wearing a sign.
Yes. And twice I'd already walked away from the crowd. I was giving an interview to a journalist when this all happened. I was trying to get away from them. They kept following me. And they're all screaming behind me. They're all surrounding me. And then your written words instigated them. Yes.
In her view.
And they're screaming in my ear from this far away. They're screaming F you, over and over. And one of those screams was very close, like this far away. And it kind of hurts your ear. That's already an assault, by the way. They should already be breaking this up. There's 36 police officers standing there watching. So I literally just put a hand up for some space and he took that as an excuse to start throwing punches. And then he pulled, another guy pushed and the police did nothing. They didn't even arrest him.
You said earlier, Chris, that there is everyone's seeing it, by the way, who's paying attention, that there is a rise in violence coming from those who identify as transgender. We saw this at the Annunciation Catholic School in Minnesota. We saw this with the murder of Charlie Kirk. It appears the killer was in a relationship with a man, gay relationship, same-sex sexual relationship with a guy identifying as trans.
Right.
We saw this with the school shooter in Nashville, the Christian school. The girl who was also trans left the manifesto.
Yes. There are more. There have been a lot. There's the Zizian cult. My friend Andy No, who is the authority on Antifa in the world. He's currently writing a book. He's reported on this a lot. But they murdered 6 people.
What is the Zizian cult?
It's some sort of trans cult.
Where?
think they were based out of the Northeast. I don't have all the details. I'll have to read the book when it comes out. But yes, there's been a lot of violence. And for me, it's nothing new. I'm used to this. I was just saying that one event, I was actually assaulted by a union rep for the government in front of the police, and they arrested me, charged me with causing a disturbance, banned me from walking on all these streets in the middle of Vancouver for 6 months until the day before my court hearing when the Crown prosecutor, like your state prosecutor, threw out the charge. I was really looking forward to court. Yeah, that was insane. That was the beginning of my campaign. I couldn't even walk in Vancouver. That was annoying, but I persevere. 2 months later, I was sucker punched from behind, and it actually stunned me for about 7 seconds. I didn't even know who'd hit me. I was just standing on a street corner. And then when I found out who it was, some young guys pointed him out. I went to take his picture and he ran. And I was just tired of all the abuse. So I said, not today. And I chased him down, wearing my signs, my sign behind me, flying behind me like a cape. And I didn't want to hurt him, but I wanted to stop him because we do have the right to do citizens arrests in Canada. So I pushed him up against a wall, a single push, bounced him off this wall. He fell down and I walked away to de-escalate. Did everything right. I was arrested there too, put in jail.
Did they arrest him?
Nope.
You're kidding.
Nope. And then they let me out and they said they reviewed the CCTV footage and he admitted to sucker punching me. So they let me go and I thought, great. Then about 2 months later, I get a phone call from the Vancouver Police Department. They wanted me to come in to give a statement because they were looking at charging me with assault causing bodily harm. And I talked to a lawyer. He said, no, don't go in. They're just trying to build a case against you because the authorities in Canada are against me, especially in Vancouver. And so I didn't speak to them, but they have a year to file charges. So I vowed then and there, this is a few months into my campaign, I'm not reacting again. I just have to take the punches. Because if I fight back, I'll get arrested. You can't even carry anything for the purpose of self-defense in Canada. You can't even carry pepper spray. So I have this all fresh in my mind. I'm worried now I'm going to get charged and I don't want a criminal record. But I vow I'm not reacting ever again. And it was a week later in Montreal when I got jumped by those 6 Antifa members and got my arm broken. I never said a word to them. I just filmed. And even there, they won't investigate. So Canada's a mess, but most of the violent assaults have actually happened to me in Canada. There have been some people arrested. I think I've probably had 12 people arrested at this point. Most of the time, no charges. A trans-identified woman, so a woman identifying as a man, threw coffee in my face a few months ago. The police wanted charges, but the Crown prosecutor wouldn't do charges. Why? Because she's trans. They play the trans card. I had a man get a criminal record for threatening to kill me, another man identifying as a woman. He'd had 2 previous criminal convictions where he received no criminal record. Why? Because he identifies as trans. He'd punched a reporter. He had prohibited weapons, but each time he got off. So I finally got him a criminal record. And there have been people arrested at protests I've held and things like that. So I do have more support now. Last time I was in Ottawa, the capital of Canada, the parliamentary police at the Capitol knew me and were openly supportive of me. And I held a protest there and the chief of police came to speak with me and others were very supportive. So over time, I'm winning. And I get police officers all the time when they're off duty. They'll come up and support me. They can't do it publicly, especially when I'm filming. But I have huge support. And the politicians don't want to talk about it. Even the Conservative Party won't talk about it. In British Columbia, where I'm from, for the first time in 5 years, I was invited into one of our legislatures in Canada, the BC legislature. I was invited by a very small party. They only have 2 politicians. But they invited me to do a presentation inside the legislature. The BC Conservative Party banned all of its politicians from coming to my presentation. The Conservatives. What a mess.
Why?
Because this is too controversial.
They're terrified.
Yeah.
They stand for nothing.
That's right. The federal Conservatives voted unanimously. So this is Pierre Poilievre is the leader. They're the Conservative Party. They're not in power. We've had Trudeau for 9 years. Now we have Carney. But they all voted unanimously to pass a law calling it conversion therapy to help your child feel comfortable with their sex.
So evil. Conversion therapy, the way that they have characterized it, is completely false.
Right.
Conversion therapy, which is actually affirmation of the child's actual sex and identity, or in the case of sexuality, is actually understanding what went wrong or what is missing or where's the trauma, where's the hurt. And it can be done so beautifully. And the attacks on it are so evil. It's trying to keep people locked in a prison of hurt instead of actually helping them be free to be who God created them to be. And we've had some amazing reintegrative therapists. That's the language that they use, because they've achieved making the term conversion therapy sound horrible. They've achieved that, I think, largely in the US at least. I'm sure in Canada too, because of the lies that have been told relentlessly. But restorative therapy to reintegrate actually the person with who they are actually and designed to be is such a gift. And so many people have been benefited from it.
Right. And all these bills have the same language. The similar bill is in California, Colorado, Minnesota. There's a lot of states with this as well. I think Canada's is particularly bad. But it's a crime to try to make a gay person straight. That's how they sell these bills, because they get more buy-in. But why these bills are really created is for the gender identity component. And so it's now a crime punishable by 5 years in prison in Canada. If your girl thinks she's a boy, and you say, no, sweetheart, you're a beautiful girl, and you object to transitioning your child, that's now a crime of conversion therapy. Punishable by 5 years in prison. It's okay to tell her she's a boy. That's the actual conversion. But helping them to be as God created them is now a crime. And this was voted unanimously by everyone in Parliament, including all the Conservatives.
Every single one.
Every single one.
In Canada.
That's right. Pierre Poilievre has mentioned the term puberty blockers once in his life publicly, and only when he was cornered in an interview. He seemed to kind of he seemed like a good counterweight to the insanities in Canada as a politician. He won't talk about any of the cultural issues.
He's terrified. Is it just because everyone's so terrified? I mean, look at you. You're out there practicing your freedom of speech peacefully, getting hammered by Antifa, and the Canadian police are completely ignoring you or arresting you like it's your fault that you got hit.
Yeah. Yeah. And the politicians are all silent. But finally, I have at least two in British Columbia. But the funny thing about this, Lila, is when I was arrested in Brussels with Lois, who called me afterwards? Who supported me? It wasn't the Canadian government. It was the US government. I got called to go to the White House and to the State Department. So I met with officials in the White House and the State Department. I'm a Canadian. But the people who back me are the American government.
We claim you.
And I know if something happens to me on my upcoming trip in just a few weeks in Europe, I know at least I have the State Department backing me. They backed me on my lawsuit against the Australian government as well for freedom of speech, because we haven't even talked about that. But all these other countries in the world, first of all, to everyone watching, be so thankful you're American. It really is the greatest country in the world. You're allowed to speak. In Britain, they're arresting 30 people every day for social media posts.
It's terrifying.
In Australia, they established this bureaucratic position called the E-Safety Commissioner. She's actually an American woman named Julian Grant. She's been at the World Economic Forum saying they need to recalibrate free speech, whatever that means. But she's a tyrant, and she's this radical leftist. And I wrote a post last year. I quoted a Daily Mail article. So I put the Daily Mail article in my post. And it was about this woman identifying as a man in Australia. Her name's Teddy Cook. And she posts all the most terrible stuff you could think of. Orgies, nudity, a dog sodomizing a man, bestiality. She wants taxpayer-funded surgeries for sex change surgeries for kids. She's just one of these disgusting queer theorist individuals.
Demonic, disgusting.
Demonic. It's the worst stuff you can think of.
And for her sake, it all should be burnt down because she's trapped with her disgusting perversions.
Correct.
As well as all the people she's hurting.
Yes.
But I just want to, I say that because you and myself and people who care here, the people practicing these evils themselves are so deranged and broken.
Yes.
it's obviously to help their victims first, because they have real victims in the world that are being hurt. But they too are a profound victim of this hideous ideology that is damaging their souls and their bodies too.
100%. And I say all the time, like in cults, the victims become the perpetrators.
Yes.
And that's what's going on here.
They're often victimized. They were somehow victimized themselves. Some of the most passionate activists for LGBTQ, whatever, suffered traumas and abuses as children.
Absolutely. So I want what's best for her, but I'm not going to lie about her, and I'm not going to call her a man. And so I wrote this tweet, and I said, this woman, yes, she's female, because people get confused. They see this naked image of her with a hairy chest. She's had a double mastectomy, of course. She's got a big beard, and people think it's a man. So I just called her a woman, because she is. And I criticized her appointment to the World Health Organization, because she's an activist pushing all this disgusting stuff. Naturally, she's not a medical doctor. Naturally, though, she was appointed to the World Health Organization panel of 20 experts to draft healthcare policy on this subject.
It's terrifying. So what happened? You tweeted that.
So I tweeted out
this
tweet.
We should pull the tweet, by the way. We've got to grab this tweet and add it in here.
I said something like, people with psychiatric disorders are writing policy for people with psychiatric disorders, or people who belong in psychiatric wards are writing policy for people who belong in psychiatric wards. Not my nicest tweet ever, but technically true. If you read Jamie Reed's
100% true.
If you read Jamie Reed's testimony, she's now on our side on this subject, but she used to work at the Washington University Gender Clinic in Missouri for 4 years. She was case manager for 1,000 kids who came through those doors. She blew the whistle on all this a few years ago, and she submitted this great affidavit to the Attorney General of Missouri, and they've now stopped this in Missouri. The gender clinic's shut down. She's testifying all across the country. But she testifies how these kids were being sent straight from the psychiatric ward of hospitals to the gender clinic. There was a boy sexually abusing dogs. He came to the gender clinic. They gave him Lupron, the puberty blocker, to chemically castrate him. And the more you read about this subject, it's a lot of psychiatric problems. Of course it is. Anyway, I wrote that tweet. The Australian government, e-safety commissioner, ordered my tweet taken down. X's legal department, Twitter's legal department, sent me the takedown notice. And I thought, beautiful. I'd forgotten about the tweet. It was like a month before.
Wait. So just to be clear, you're traveling to Australia.
I wasn't in Australia.
But
I'm a Canadian who wrote about an Australian woman.
And they got wind that you were going to come to Australia, or
Nope.
not even? They just wanted to shut you down in Canada.
They're
from
censoring
Australia
the whole internet
for talking about the pro-bestiality woman who is, psychologically disturbed, but now being appointed to the
Yes.
World Health Organization's commission.
So to clarify, I'm a Canadian man who published a British article on an American platform, and the Australian government ordered it taken down. Or X would get a fine of $782,500. So they geo-blocked it in Australia. No Australians could see my tweet anymore.
To protect themselves from the fine as a company.
Yes. They have to follow laws of countries. So I filed an appeal. And then Elon Musk also filed an appeal. I didn't even know that at the time. So this went to court. And I had 5 days of trial in Melbourne earlier this year.
You had to go to Melbourne? You had to go to court?
Yeah.
Over your tweet?
Yeah. And 5 days of trial. I had my lawyers, thanks to ADF and thanks to this Human Rights Law Alliance in Australia. They did pro bono work for me. And we won.
You won.
Big time. So the decision is amazing, actually. We couldn't have had a better decision. He even cited the context of my campaign and said that I will only use sex-based pronouns for people. And that's not because of hate. It's because to do otherwise, I think, is damaging to women and to children. And he even quoted that in the ruling. So hopefully we can use this as a precedent in other court cases, not only in Australia, but in other parts of the world too. There is, sometimes courts look at other rulings in other jurisdictions, because what's happening in Australia is the same thing now happening in Europe. There's an act called the Digital Services Act, which makes it so that if you, Lila, write a post about some European person in Germany, let's say, and the German government doesn't like it, they can order that post taken down for the entire European Union. 400 million people, whatever it is. So they're trying to censor the whole internet. And in Australia, they're only ever censoring really people like myself. It's only ever normal people, conservative people. There's a woman who worked for the Breastfeeding Association of Australia. I think her name's Jasmine Sussex. For 15 years, she worked for them. She wrote a tweet objecting to men chest feeding babies, where they take some chemical concoction and they're able to secrete some liquid that they feed to a baby.
Criminal. Evil.
She's a normal, beautiful, nice woman.
Who's speaking up for babies.
Speaking up for babies and against this really kind of pedophilic practice. It's disgusting.
It is. There's been men who have done it who talk about how it's sexually gratifying for them to do it.
Right.
It's
and what
disgusting.
happened? The e-safety commissioner ordered that post taken down. There was a pastor, Mari Emanuel, I think is his name. He was stabbed by an Islamist during a church service as he was chanting Allahu Akbar. He lost his eye. And there's video footage of it, but it's not gory. You can't actually see the actual stabbing because he's fallen to the ground. She ordered that post taken off the entire internet.
Why? Because it would create Islamophobia.
Right.
Of the people that you've talked to now, 30,000 people, in-person conversations in the last 4 years, how many would you say have been supportive of recognizing this is insane, what we're doing to children, sterilizing them? How many would you say are, adamantly pro-LGBT, pro-T, et cetera? And then how many would you say are kind of having their eyes open for the first time? If you could roughly and give an analysis of that.
Yeah, that's easy. So even from the very beginning, I've had definite majority support, always. Close to 90%, I've always said.
Even in places like Canada?
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. But it's so crazy that the politicians are zipped silent.
Well, so with all the leftist parties in the world, the radicals have completely taken over those parties.
Wow.
If you're a moderate Democrat, you have no say. We've seen Democrat politicians come out and say, actually, I don't think boys should compete in girls' sports. And then they're retracting their statement the next day.
I mean, Newsom just did that. He did that several months back, I think, with Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, but he's just, again,
he's just
I said he's snake-tongued. That's Gavin Newsom.
Yes.
But there was a politician, I think it was Rhode Island recently, a male politician who said something sensible about it, and then he retracted. Look who is being promoted. It's the radicals, the AOCs, the Mamdanis. If you're not pushing as your number one priorities abortion and transgendering children in the United States of America, you can't be a successful Democrat. You'll never get funding. Planned Parenthood, what's their business? It's abortion and it's transing kids and young people. It's issuing testosterone to young girls and women.
Yeah, we exposed that. Live Action called dozens of Planned Parenthood facilities, and they would, like you were talking about Clementine, within 30 minutes, a consultation, next day, they would have given the prescription for testosterone to a young girl.
Yeah. When I started my campaign, there was a young detransitioner, fantastic young woman named Helena Kushner. She doesn't speak out anymore. I think it became too much, but she's amazing, brilliant, beautiful writer. She drove 5 hours to get to her closest Planned Parenthood. She was up in the Northeast somewhere. And of course, it was a 20-minute appointment. And the clinician or whatever you call her who saw her said, wow, you drove 5 hours to be here. You must really be trans. And so she gave her, no questions asked, a testosterone prescription. And Helena didn't think it was big enough. She wanted a higher one. And so she just changed the script and wrote a larger prescription for more testosterone. They know nothing about her. They don't question anything. If you say you're trans, you're trans. They don't question anything. They know nothing. And so for me, yeah, my main campaign is kids, but it goes beyond kids. When you're 18, suddenly, it's not a magic light switch that goes on and takes away all your troubles. The Hippocratic Oath says first, do no harm. Not first, do whatever they want. They should be screening for abuse. They should be screening for trauma. They should be screening for other mental health comorbidities. They should be treating those first. That's medicine. They're not order takers. But increasingly, that's how they are in the world today. They just want people in and out.
Do you feel afraid at all for your safety? You've been assaulted 40 times when you're traveling the world, going and having conversations. You don't, I think, go with security, right? It's you.
Can't afford it. So obviously I'm aware. I've been assaulted many times. So somewhat comedically, I always say the type of men who have a problem with me are not the type of men I need to worry about physically. And it's true. When I see a big, strong man walking down the street, it's 100% of them support me. All the athletic men, they all support me. Every one of them. The demographic that doesn't support me the most is unfortunately young women, college-aged women.
Completely brainwashed.
Yeah. They've been lied to.
Yes. We're working on that. That's one of my personal goals, to help those women.
They're told puberty blockers are reversible and kids are going to die. That's the only two things they hear. Yeah. And then the other third argument you hear is intersex. What about intersex people? Well, what about them? It's got nothing to do with this. That's an umbrella term for a variety of disorders of sexual development. I actually spoke to a young man with one of these conditions yesterday at UCLA.
Was he, when he came up to you, quick rabbit trail here, but I think it's really helpful for people listening. He comes up to you, he says, well, I'm in support of... He
was totally supportive of me.
Of you.
Yeah.
But he said, I have a sexual developmental issue, but I still think this trans thing is insane.
Yeah, we'll come back to the violence in a second, but yes. I was wrapping up a conversation for 30 minutes that I had with this young man who was against me, but he knew nothing about it. And then I could see this other gentleman waiting to talk to me for quite a while. So we were basically done. And I said, I think this person wants to talk to me. It looks to be a man identifying as a woman. The guy I was talking to took great offense to that. How dare I say that? But I could tell. So he says to him, he says, you're a man identifying as a woman. And that person said, I'm not a man. He goes, see, that is a cisgender woman. Then the guy says, I'm not a cisgender woman. I'm intersex. And it turns out he has this condition called partial androgen insensitivity syndrome. He's a male, but his body has a problem processing testosterone. And he's actually taking progesterone to appear more female.
Why?
That's a personal choice.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it. He should be getting treated to appear more male because he's male. That's my opinion. But he was fully supportive of what I'm doing.
No puberty blockers for kids still.
No. And so it was interesting. It's a good conversation.
Yeah.
People can go to my YouTube channel and check it out. But on the violence thing, yeah, I do worry a bit. I mean, people want to kill me. If I go out of Portland at night, I'm dead. So I'm not going to go out in Portland at night. And there's ways to do this smartly. And I don't want to scare people, because you can go to your state capital. You can talk to people. There's already security there. You can do all sorts of things. Most of the time it's great. But you know what? Charlie Kirk wasn't assaulted a whole lot. I don't know if he was ever assaulted until he was assassinated. So I need to be smart. I need to be careful in places like Germany, especially because there's a lot of stabbings going on there. But I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing, because we can't let fear drive us. In places like Europe and like Canada, there's basically nobody talking about this. There's a handful of people. It's not like America. People fight back in the US.
If people listening aren't able to themselves go out and stand on a street corner and share the truth about the fact that no child is born in the wrong body, I would encourage people, if they can, to go to your website and donate for you to be able to continue your work and to travel with a security.
That would be great. So
we'll put that link
people can, I'm going to be fine financially one of these days. One of these days. People can go to billboardchris.com. They can help me out personally there if they want. That'd be great. But they can also go to my nonprofit, WeSpeakTruth.com. They get a tax deduction, especially for like institutional investors and things like that.
Thank you.
I need to hire some people, security. I have big plans. We're going to stop this. So if you want to support me, that would be great. But just keep having these conversations, because one conversation at a time, we are going to stop this child abuse.
What gives you hope for the future, Chris? And I guess that's connected to your plans as well.
We have the truth on our side. And you can't stop the truth. The truth spreads for free. It doesn't need propaganda. This ideology needed billions of dollars behind it. All the NGOs, all the leftist governments, the intergovernmental bodies, they all push this lie. And when a lie is so big and when it's repeated so many times, people believe it. That's how propaganda works. So there's this expression, a lie travels around the world while the truth is still putting her pants on. And that's the same with this. So they had a head start. They have a lot of money. They have a lot of organizational capacity behind them. But we have the truth and it's spreading. Nobody in the NGO world, in the conservative world, believed we would have the progress we've had these last few years, to be honest, except for me. And I was sitting in these meetings. I was invited to the first meeting of all the main people fighting this at the Heritage Foundation back in 2021. It was just 30 of us at first, all these Americans and me. And I have always had faith. I've had faith in humans, in people, in parents especially, that when they learn what's going on, that they will put a stop to this, because there's no love in this world like that of a parent for their child. And you try to get in between a mama bear and her cubs, or a daddy bear and his cubs, and you're in for a world of hurt. And that's what this ideology is doing. So it's primarily been led by parents. And of course, yeah, we do have the NGO class and the think tanks and the podcast world, and they're all talking about this all the time, and that's all extremely helpful. And the power of social media magnifies our voices. But we can't be stopped because we have the truth. This ideology will die, but we have a lot of work to do. I don't want people to think we've won this, because we haven't.
Billboard Chris, you are a hero. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. We support you here and we think the world of you. And I agree, we're going to win, but it's going to take everybody doing something.
That's right.
And joining the fight.
Lila, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. This has been amazing. Give us the website again.
BillboardChris.com or WeSpeakTruth.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Lila Rose Show. I hope you enjoyed it. I always do. Make sure that you're subscribed if you haven't hit that subscribe button already, and go over to our Patreon to support the mission of this show. That's patreon.com/Lila Rose Show. A huge thank you to our partner, EWTN, the largest religious broadcaster in the entire world. EWTN is reaching millions of people every single day with the beautiful truth of the gospel. You can watch new episodes of The Lila Rose Show 24 hours before they hit podcast app over at EWTN.com/on-demand.